You've probably heard of beta-glucan, right? It's a super popular supplement for boosting your immune system. But here's the thing. When we talk about our lungs, the story gets really complicated. Is this stuff a helpful friend or a harmful foe? Let's get into the evidence and figure it out. Okay, so let's start with the positive side of the story. Check this out. This is from a human study on marathon runners. Now, you can imagine their bodies are under incredible stress after a race. And look at what happened. The runners who took an oral supplement of baker's yeast beta-glucan, well, they had a massive drop in getting cold or the flu compared to the placebo group. We're talking more than a 50% reduction. That is a seriously powerful start.
And you know, what's really cool is this isn't just for elite athletes. Not at all. Other human studies found that the same oral baker's yeast beta-glucan also helped people who were under a ton of psychological stress, women dealing with just moderate daily stress, and even wildland firefighters with incredibly demanding jobs. So it really seems to work against both physical and mental strain.
So you might be wondering, how does it actually work? Well, this gives us a huge clue. This is from a study in children who had chronic respiratory problems. After taking an oral yeast-derived beta-glucan, the amount of something called salivary IgA just shot up. Think of IgA as the security guard for your airways. It's an antibody in your saliva and mucus that's your first line of defense. So more IgA means a stronger shield against incoming germs.
Okay, so at this point, beta-glucan is looking like an absolute superhero, isn't it? It helps athletes, it helps stressed out people, it even helps kids fight off infections. But what if I told you we've only been looking at one side of the coin?
And this is where the plot thickens. On the one hand, if you swallow a purified yeast beta-glucan supplement, it seems to be fantastic for your respiratory health. But on the other hand, inhaling beta-glucan as part of organic dust is actually linked to some pretty serious lung problems for industrial workers. So how can the very same compound be so dramatically different? Let's look at a really specific example of this harm. There's a condition called bisonosis, sometimes known as brown lung disease. It affects workers in the textile industry who are breathing in cotton dust all day. And research points a finger directly at a specific type of beta-glucan inside that dust as a prime suspect for causing the inflammation and damage in their lungs. And it's not just a cotton thing either. A study on woodworkers found a clear connection. The more dust containing beta-glucan they breathed in, the more symptoms they had, like chronic bronchitis and throat irritation. So again, the big question is, how on earth can the same substance be so helpful when you eat it, but so harmful when you breathe it in? All right, let's start solving this puzzle. Our first big clue is all about the journey it takes to get into your body. And these two paths could not be more different. See, when you swallow a supplement, special immune cells in your gut basically eat it up, break it down, and then slowly release these active little pieces to kind of tune up your entire immune system. But when you inhale raw beta-glucan from dust, it's a direct hit. It lands right on the delicate surfaces of your lungs, where it can mess with the lung's surfactant. That's a critical fluid that keeps your airways working properly, and that can trigger a whole lot of inflammation. But you know what? The route it takes is only half the answer. The second clue is arguably even more important. And it's realizing that the term beta-glucan is actually a huge oversimplification. Listen to how researchers put it. They say beta-glucans have many different linkage patterns. What does that mean? Well, think of them like chains. The linkage pattern is just how those chains are built. Are they simple and straight, or are they complex with lots of branches coming off? That structure, which depends entirely on the source, changes absolutely everything. This table just pulls it all together perfectly. Look at the top line. The helpful baker's yeast supplement has a complex, branched structure. Now compare that to beta-glucan from cereals like oats. It has a simpler, linear structure. And sure enough, human studies found it was way less effective for preventing those respiratory infections in athletes. Then you've got the raw stuff in inhaled dust, which is harmful. And now get this is amazing. Scientists created a chemically modified version that when turned into a therapeutic aerosol actually helped children with their respiratory infections. Incredible. So you see, the crucial point is that context is king. It's not enough to ask if beta-glucan is good or bad for your lungs. The real question is, which beta-glucan, from what source, and how is it getting into your body? So let's wrap this up with the key takeaways.
First, the route you take it by matters a lot. Swallowing it leads to a smart systemic immune boost, while inhaling it can be a direct irritant. Second, the source matters. That highly branched structure from baker's yeast really seems to be the sweet spot for immune activity. And third, the form matters. A purified, specific supplement is a totally different beast from raw dust or a precisely engineered medicine. And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought for the future. Understanding all this complexity doesn't just clear up some confusion, it opens up a whole new frontier. If we can take a molecule that's actually harmful in its raw natural state and scientifically engineer it into a helpful inhaled therapy for kids, what does that mean for the future? It shows us that by digging into the details, we can actually turn a potential problem into a powerful solution.